Lesson 107 in reading, part 2. Today's reading is chapter 17, Seeking the Buried Treasure. Our focus question for today is, how are Huck's plans for the treasure different from Tom's? There comes a time in every boy's life when he has a raging desire to go somewhere and dig for hidden treasure. This desire suddenly came upon Tom one day. He tried to find Joe Harper but failed. Next, he sought Ben Rogers, but he had gone fishing. Presently, he stumbled upon Huck Finn. Tom took him to a private place and talked to him confidentially. Huck was willing. Huck was always willing to take part in any project that offered entertainment and required no money. "Where'll we dig for treasure?" said Huck. "Oh, most anywhere." "Why, is treasure hid all around?" "No, indeed it ain't. It's hid in mighty particular places, Huck. Sometimes on islands, sometimes in rotten chests under the end of a limb at an old dead tree, just where the shadow falls at midnight, but mostly under the floor in haunted houses." "Who hides it?" "Why, robbers, of course. Who do you reckon? Sunday school teachers?" "I don't know. If it was mine, I reckon I wouldn't hide it. I'd spend it and have a good time." "So would I, but robbers don't do it that way. They always hide it and leave it there. Then somebody finds an old yellow paper that tells how to find the place. The paper's got to be puzzled over for about a week because it's mostly written in a secret code. Have you got one of them papers?" "No," said Tom. "Well, then, how are you going to find the hiding place?" "Look, Huck. Robbers always bury it under a haunted house, or on an island, or under a dead tree that's got one lid sticking out. Well, we could try Jackson's Island sometime, and there's the old haunted house up Still Creek, and there's lots of dead limb trees." "How are you going to know which place to go for?" "Go for all of them." "Why, Tom, it'll take all summer." "Well, what of that? Suppose you find a brass pot with $100 in it, all rusty and gray, or a rotten chest full of diamonds. How's that?" Huck's eyes glowed. "That's great," he said. "Plenty great enough for me. Just you give me the $100 and I don't want no diamonds." "All right, but I bet you ain't going to refuse diamonds. Some of 'em's worth $20 apiece." "No! Is that so?" "Certainly. Anybody'll tell you so. Ain't you ever seen one, Huck?" "Not as I remember." "Oh, kings have tons of them." "Well, I don't know no kings, Tom." "I reckon you don't. But if you was to go to Europe, you'd see a bunch of 'em hopping around." "Do they hop?" "No." "Well, what did you say they did for?" "I only meant you see 'em," Tom said. "Were you going to dig first?" Huck asked. "Well, I don't know. Suppose we tackle that old dead limb tree on the hill on the other side of Still Creek." "I'm agreed." They got an old pick and a shovel and set out for the 3-mile journey. They arrived hot and panting and threw themselves down in the shade of a neighboring elm to rest. "I like this," said Tom, as he looked at Still Creek and the large dead limb tree. "So do I. Say, Huck, if we find a treasure here, what are you going to do with your share?" "Well, I'll have a good food every day, and I'll go to every circus that comes along. I bet I'll have a great time." "Well, ain't you going to save any of your share?" "Save it? What for?" "Why, so as to have something to live on by and by." "Oh, that ain't any use. Pa would come back to town someday and get his claws on it if I didn't spend it fast. And I tell you, he'd clean it out pretty quick." "What are you going to do with yours, Tom?" "I'm going to buy a new drum, and a red necktie, and a puppy, and get married." "Married?" "That's it. Tom, why, you ain't in your right mind." "Wait, you'll see." "Well, that's the foolishest thing you could do. Look at Pa and my mother. Fight! Why, they used to fight all the time. I remember mighty well." "That ain't anything. The girl I'm going to marry won't fight." "Tom, I reckon they're all alike. Now you better think about this a while. I tell you, you better. What's the name of the gal? It ain't a gal at all. It's a girl. It's all the same, I reckon. Some says gal, some says girl. Both are right. Anyway, what's their name, Tom? I'll tell you sometime. Not now. All right, that'll do. Only if you get married, I'll be more lonesome than ever. No, you won't. You'll come and live with me. Now let's stop talking and start digging. They worked and sweated for half an hour. No result. They toiled another half an hour. Still no result. Huck said, "Do they always bury it as deep as this?" "Sometimes, not always. Not generally, I reckon. We haven't got the right place." They chose a new spot near the dead limb tree and began again. The labor dragged a little, but they still made progress. They dug away in silence for some time. Finally, Huck leaned on his shovel, mopped the sweat from his brow, and said, "Where are you going to dig next after we finish this one?" "I reckon maybe we tackle the old tree that's over yonder on Cardiff Hill, back of the widow Douglas place. I reckon that'll be a good place." "But won't the widow take our treasure away from us, Tom? It's on her land." "She'd take it away? Maybe she'd like to try it once. Whoever finds one of these hidden treasures, it belongs to him. I don't make any difference whose land it's on." Huck was satisfied with that. The work went on. By and by, Huck said, "Blame it. We must be in the wrong place again. What do you think?" "It's mighty curious, Huck. Don't understand it. Sometimes witches interfere. I reckon maybe that's the trouble now." "Shucks. Witches ain't got no power in the daytime." "Well, that's so. I didn't think of that. Oh, I know what the matter is. What fools we are. We got to go find out where the shadow of the limb falls at midnight. And that's where you dig." "Then confound it. We fooled away all this work for nothing. We got to come back here in the night. It's an awful long way. Can you get out?" "I bet I will. We've got to do it tonight, too, because if somebody sees these holes, they'll know in a minute what's here, and they'll go for it." "Well, I'll come around and meow tonight." "All right. Let's hide these tools in the bushes." That concludes the reading. Let's review our questions. How are Huck's plans for the treasure buried from Tom's? Pause the video. Huck wanted to eat well and go to the circus, but Tom wanted to buy a new drum, a red necktie, and a puppy and get married. Next question. Why didn't Huck want to save any of his money? Pause the video. He was afraid his father would come back to town and take it. Next question. Why did Huck think Tom shouldn't get married? Pause the video. He thought Tom and his wife would fight. He thought Tom would be his friend. He thought Tom wouldn't be his friend anymore. Next question. Name 3 places where Tom thought treasure is buried. Pause the video. On islands, under dead limbs, in haunted houses. Next question. Do you think Tom and Huck will find buried treasure? Explain your answer. That one I'll let you do on your own. Now let's talk about the rest of today's work. We just went over our comprehension, which is part F. Logic today. Part E. Write the answer for items 1 through 3. Here's a rule of logic. Just because a person is an expert in one field doesn't mean that person is an expert in another field. The following statement by a writer breaks the rule. Professor Johnson has been with the University of New York for 12 years and is chairperson of the history department. Professor Johnson is urging the city to build a new subway. Surely it is foolish to ignore the wisdom this man is offering us. Your questions to answer are, who is the expert of the statement? Question 2, in which field is that person an expert? Question 3, what other fields does the writer mention? We went over comprehension. You must answer these. Part G. What would you do if you found buried treasure? Write an essay that explains what you would do. Try to answer the following questions. How much is your treasure worth? What things would you do with the treasure? Why would you do those things? Would you save any of the treasure? Make your essay at least 80 words long. And for extra credit today, draw me a treasure map. Also, don't forget to do your workbook, each question. If you have any questions, reread or rewatch the videos, and then reach out to me. Take care.